Hello again, it's Monika, and I just thought I would talk to you twice today. I was live in here earlier today, but there's another topic that's burning at me that has come up a lot, actually comes up pretty much in every relationship on some level that I'm working with. And that is, how do I know the difference between rehashing the past and working through the past in a healthy way? How do I know the difference between unproductive, staying stuck, rehashing, going over the same thing, again and again, and that kind of productive processing where you're looking at the past in a way that helps you move forward in a different way. And this can be a fine line, and sometimes partners will argue about this and what that's supposed to look like. One person might want to talk about something for the sake of healing, and the other partner doesn't want to talk about it because they feel like it's just rehashing. So that's why I thought I would address this topic. This is important whether or not you're dealing with infidelity, which is like a major betrayal, where a big part of the healing is in talking about what actually happened and talking about the past and how it's impacting the present, that there's a period of time where that is an appropriate part of the healing process. It could also be anything where one partner has felt hurt by the other in the relationship. It could be something that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, last week. It could be an ongoing pattern, and one person wants to talk about it, the other person doesn't want to, or they both want to talk about it, but they have different agendas, and they end up in that rehashing place where they don't get anywhere and they don't actually learn anything from it. So first I wanted to just talk about what is rehashing and what is working it through, just basic definitions. So when I think of rehashing, I think about two people arguing about what actually happened. If there's a disagreement about it, no, this is what happened. No, then you said this. No, that's not what happened. Or even if it's not just straight logistical, chronological stuff that you're arguing about, there might be some meaning around it or motivations behind it that you might be arguing around. Anytime you're trying to get the other person to see your version of events or what it meant, and your agenda is really just, if we can go back to that again and talk about it until they can see how they were wrong, or until they can see what I see, until I can convince them. And if that is the point of going over it, I would call that rehashing. If you're going over something that was really awful just for the sake of emoting or unlimited self-expression because you want to just release the toxic emotion of it onto your partner, or if you just want to go on and on about how transgressed you feel, and you're in that place of righteous rage, you're in the danger zone of rehashing. You're most likely rehashing if that's what you're doing, unless you're super mindful about what your intention is and what you're saying. But a lot of times rehashing is reliving something from a place of having felt transgressed, or living from a place of injustice. And it very well might be that something unjust occurred. It wasn't right. And so you have the desire to want to work it through so that you can make it right and fix it, so that you don't have this disconnection between you anymore. So the intentions are good, right? The intentions are, this is a barrier between our connection. We need to figure this out so that we can let it go. But too often, even with those good intentions, people end up staying stuck in that rehashing and reliving of what occurred, really from a place of sharing how awful it really was and making their partner understand that. Rehashing is also going over something that's already been discussed, that's already been owned and apologized for. Agreements have already been made about what's going to happen going forward, but yet you just can't let it go. If you're still talking about it when your partner has heard you and you really have come to an understanding of why that wasn't right, or you do have a shared understanding of what occurred and you've apologized for it, and there's been some, owning on both sides to the satisfaction of both people, but now it's coming up again because either you're having a bad day or it's linked with some other core issue. If you're bringing it up again, that's just rehashing. And it's really tempting to do that sometimes, but it's not productive, and it will damage your relationship. So, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But working it through, on the other hand, working through something is about sharing what you remember, not arguing about whose version of events is most accurate or what actually occurred, or what the motivation of the person is, but really just saying, you know, this is what I remember. This is what it was like for me. This is how it impacted in me. This is what I want you to understand for the sake of feeling heard and understood, right? If you're talking about it for the purpose of feeling heard and having a conversation about accountability, of ownership, of acknowledgement of what each person or just one person's experience really was, a true, you know, and acknowledging that that was a true and real experience for your partner, or your partner's hearing that for you, that is not rehashing. I would consider that productive and working through something. The purpose ultimately for working through the past, looking at the past for the sake of having a better relationship, the purpose of that is greater understanding and emotional connection. It's for the purpose of understanding something that has not yet before been understood quite in this new way. It's for new information, it's for new understanding. It's to reflect on what's happened in a way to gain insight into our default modes, insight into our triggers, or what works, what doesn't work. It's ultimately for the purpose of going forward in a different way. So if you're looking at the past and you're saying, I can see what happened for me there, I can see why I said that, or what I was scared of, or what was at stake for me, then you're learning from the past, and then that's something that your partner can be sensitive to going forward, or vice versa. It's useful information, and it's not information that you've already gained from a previous conversation. That falls under working through something in a healthy way. So for example, I'll use this example of if you are recovering from an affair, it's working through it if the betrayed partner can share their struggle or ask questions about what happened from the place of wanting to know what things meant to the person who was cheating, what was their cheating partner thinking and feeling, for the purpose of understanding the deeper dynamics and what led to it, to know the signs and the pitfalls that can be used going forward to create something more trustworthy in the future, right? But rehashing, on the other hand, is continuing to lay into your partner for what they've done and going over the events again and again for the purpose of venting, like I said. It's working it through would be to say, you know, when I drove by the store, it reminded me that you used to come here with her, and I just felt this wave of panic and rage, and I questioned everything I knew, and I just felt really upset for the rest of the day. That's not rehashing the past. That's sharing something in an emotionally transparent way. It's not even blaming. It's not really overly emoting. It's just being honest. And it's giving the cheating partner an opportunity to take accountability, to hold space for the betrayed partner, to offer empathy, and that can be a healing opportunity going forward, right? So, and that's going to happen when you're recovering from infidelity. That's going to happen more than once, way more than once. But if you use the same example, I think rehashing, what that would look like is if you're wanting to be told over and over again what happened, or not believing what happened and asking again and again, or continuing to want to talk about it for the purpose of saying, how could you do this to me? What kind of person are you? Or venturing into verbal attacks. While that might feel a little bit like a relief in the moment, that's not healing. That's not productive. That's not something that's actually helping you work through anything. That's actually living in the past. So that's just an example of how I draw the line. But so often couples go down the road of rehashing and people stay stuck there, and that's really what kills relationships. There's going to be transgressions, there's going to be disappointments, there's going to have to be repair in any healthy long-term relationship. It's just a matter of how do you do that? How do you process something that happened without going down that road? So the problem with rehashing is that it will keep you stuck, right? Obviously, it goes nowhere. You remain in the negative experience, and you literally are living in the past when you're rehashing. You're just wasting energy. You're putting yourself in a negative vibration. It's anti-creative. You're literally blocking any creative efforts to build something new with your partner. It blocks new experiences. And it's this feeling of being stuck that ultimately leads to couples deciding that they just can't do it. Like, I can't recover from this. We're never going to be able to move forward. Trust is broken, regardless of what, you know, the betrayal actually was. And I'm not talking, it doesn't have to just be infidelity. But it's just this idea that we're never going to be able to move forward. We're never going to be able to have a productive conversation about anything. And Couples fall apart, couples who really love each other, partners who really, really love each other and have a lot at stake, end up not being able to recover because they are stuck in the rehashing and they haven't figured out how to work through something successfully. The other thing it does is it creates disconnection, obviously, in the moment, which affects all other areas. It affects intimacy, it affects problem solving, it affects just day-to-day, energy in the household. It affects that sense of closeness that you have, that if you can have that, when you have that closeness with your partner, you're much more likely to be able to revisit something that was painful from a place of, hey, we're on the same team and we're working through this together. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the solution really is, there's a couple things, actually. There's three tips I would give that if you can follow these, you're going to be in the safe zone in terms of not falling into the pitfall of rehashing constantly. Number one is that you want to be really aware of the reason why you're having the conversation. So when you're opening up a conversation, or when your partner's opening up the conversation about something that happened in the past, find out ahead of time, like, what exactly am I looking for in this conversation? Or if my partner brought it up, ask for clarity. What is your hope from talking about this right now? What is your goal? What would you need to feel like the conversation went well? It's so important to be clear about that, because a lot of the time, like the majority of the time, people are not aware of it. People are not aware of what their agenda actually is in the conversation. They think they're just trying to collect information. They think they're making a neutral observation, but really they're fighting for something. Something is at stake. So you want to really know what that is, or help your partner get clear on what that is. You may realize when you ask that question that, if I'm honest with myself, I really just want to vent because I'm pissed off. Or I really just want to convince them of something because it really bothers me that they don't see it that way. And if they don't see it that way, then how can I know that we can rebuild this? How can anything be different if they still see it the way they used to see it? So I have an agenda to, like, show them what happened, or show them the way that I'm looking at it so that they'll see it that way. And that's really just about being right. And that is not going to help us move forward. I mean, it could technically, if they're open to it, right? But if they're not open to it and you stay there, you're just rehashing, and you're not being productive. You're not productive in working through something that could lay the foundation for something in the future. You may also just want to be sharing your emotions for the sake of feeling felt. And that's healing. If you're honest about that, I just want to share this with you because I feel like I just want you to understand. There's that desire for being seen and heard and empathy. But you just have to be really clear on what your intention is. And if it's your partner bringing something up to you that you feel like they've brought up before and you're kind of tired of hearing it, well, there might really be a good reason. Something hasn't been resolved. Maybe if you sidestep the whole argument piece and the, trying to convince each other, positionality of an argument, and you really just listen to the deeper desire and you can get them to be clear about what they're looking for, it might be that all you need to do is just hear and offer empathy, and then you can move off of it. And then you can put it to bed. You can put the issue to bed once and for all. If it's infidelity, the chances are it'll come up again. But at a certain point, even with infidelity, it's over. Like, there's nothing more to say. So the other thing you can do to prevent rehashing, or to stop yourself from rehashing, is to ask yourself two questions. One is, and this is before you actually open up the conversation, is what I'm going to say, is it going to lead somewhere good? That's the first question. Is this going to lead somewhere good? The other question is, do I have some fresh positive insights, or do I have new questions that, if they get answered, could release me just a little bit more? Do I have fresh positive insights or new questions that will relieve me or give, offer some healing? If you can say yes to either of those, then I think you have real potential for not rehashing, but actually productively working through something. And then the final tip I want to leave you guys with is that if you look at, anytime you're trying to process them from the past, if you're looking at it from the lens of how will this information, how will this conversation help me make positive changes going forward? If that is your guiding question, and you're really staying true to that agenda, you'll be fine. You'll be fine as long as you know the purpose is to get something that will help us. If it feels like, oh my God, we're going down this rabbit hole, we've had the same conversation 100 times, you got to stop. You got to, take some time outs. And that will be a subject, the subject of another talk in the future. But I hope this is helpful. I hope this distinction is helpful if you are stuck in these old patterns with your partner. If you feel like you need support around this, please book a call. I will put the link below, or if you just have questions about what I've shared or comments, I always respond to those as well. Feel free to post your questions and I will get to them. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful evening and weekend.